evening. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Welcome to this special presentation. In the next half an hour, we'll take a closer look at some of the important developments in the day. We'll also connect with our reporters. Important update from India-China LAC, where active de-escalation is being reported. Special representatives from the two sides have spoken to each other. We will take stock of the rains and flood situation in different parts of the country as well. And also, there have been reports of lightning in some states. We'll also review the COVID outbreak situation in India, all that and more. Let's begin with the top story. And we'll begin with the details coming in from the LAC. The special representatives of India and China on the boundary question, Ajit Doval, National Security Advisor of India, and Wang Yi, State Councillor of Minister of Foreign Affairs of China, had a telephone conversation on 5th July 2020, that's yesterday. The two special representatives had a frank and in-depth exchange of views on the recent developments in the western sector of India-China border areas. The two special representatives agreed that both sides should take guidance from the consensus of the leaders that maintenance of peace and tranquility in India-China border areas was essential for the further development of our bilateral relations, and the two sides should not allow differences to become disputes. Therefore, they agreed that it was necessary to ensure at the earliest to complete the disengagement of the troops along the LAC and de-escalation from India-China border areas for full restoration of peace and tranquility. In this regard, they further agreed that both sides should complete the ongoing disengagement process along the LOC expeditiously. The two sides should also ensure a phased and stepwise de-escalation in the India-China border areas. The two special representatives agreed that diplomatic and military officials of the two sides should continue their discussions, including under the framework of Working Mechanism for Consultation and Coordination on India-China Border Affairs, that's WMCC, and implement the understandings reached in a timely manner to achieve the above outcomes. It was also agreed that the two special representatives will continue their conversations to ensure full and enduring restoration of peace and tranquility in the India-China border areas in accordance with the bilateral agreements and protocols. And they reaffirmed that both sides should strictly respect and observe the line of actual control and should not take any unilateral action to alter the status quo and work together to avoid any incident in the future that could disturb peace and tranquility in the border areas. Meanwhile, disengagement with PLA began at line of actual control in eastern Ladakh. Chinese PLA troops have been seen moving further back to their side of the LAC. Activities such as tents are being removed, armored vehicles transporting troops and equipment back, and packing and loading up vehicles are also being reported. Disengagement began as per agreed terms in the Corps Commanders meeting held last month. And my colleagues Amrit Pal and Nandita are joining us with more updates on this big development. Amrit, if we first talk about the de-escalation that has been reported, it's a positive sign. It simplifies how the talks are working between the two sides, India and China.
It's a welcome step. It is a positive sign that the Chinese are looking to disengage, and the PLA, as sources point out, that have been seen moving back, uprooting the tents, the structures that they have erected there, along with their vehicles back to their positions. It remains to be seen, do they actually abide by the terms agreed at the Corps Commander level on the 30th of last month. When the last meeting took place. As you know, 3 rounds have already taken place at the Corps Commander level. And yesterday, the SR level, the SR level talks, it was reaffirmed that de-escalation and disengagement is crucial, and it must be implemented expeditiously to maintain calm and peace and tranquility along the line of actual control till the border issue is resolved. So it is a welcome step, but it's going to be a long drawn-out process, a phased a process which will be carried out in a phased manner, in a calibrated manner, a step-by-step manner, and which is verified by the ground troops the troops on the ground. So I'm sure the Indian Army would be taking a very close look at the situation and a very cautious approach
Right.
before they respond to a mutual disengagement.
Yeah, talking about the cautious approach, Amrit, the points discussed between special representatives sound familiar. You know, on these grounds, talks had happened earlier between the two sides, but the sort of trust deficit that was caused by the 15 June incident, how challenging would it be to fill that gap that has come in the relation between the two countries?
Well, that remains a sore thumb. I mean, the unfortunate incident that took place on the 15th, in which we lost 20 of our soldiers, did shake up the Indian establishment in terms of the trust that we had with the Chinese, because such an incident hadn't taken place for more than 4 decades, 4.5 decades. I mean, we've seen occasional pushing and shoving between troops who come face to face, but there are protocols and mechanisms in place to avoid such a eyeball to eyeball situation, and they are generally resolved peacefully and forces retreat back to their positions. But once it was agreed at the corps commanders level on the 6th of June,
Right.
and the Chinese did not keep their word and resorted to an incident of a nature which cannot be called professional soldiering by any lens. So the Indians would now be very, very cautious to verify. I mean, they're ready to trust, but as they say, trust but verify. They will be verifying the steps taken by the PLA, because all said and done, it has caused a trust deficit between at least the troops on the ground.
Right. Amrit, also to understand the manner in which these two different lines of talks, co-commander level talks that have been on, and now the special representative level talks, how do they complement each other in resolving the tensions at the LSC?
Well, what happens at the military talks is that the nitty-gritties are discussed. How the process will take place, how much will you move back in response, how much will the Indian military move back, what are the friction points. They exchange maps, they give each other information that this is the sort of deployment, this is the sort of structures that you've erected, this is the kind of armament you've kept there, this is what we are looking at, reducing the number of troops, going back to the positions that you earlier were. These were the earmarked positions on the rear side of your LAC. So this is what is discussed at the military level. At the diplomatic level, be it when the officials of foreign ministries talk, or the pinnacle level of institutional mechanism, which is the SR level mechanism for resolving border issues between India and China, it is broad, the contours are laid out that what is agreed at the military commanders level must be followed in letter and spirit. De-escalation, they agree in principle that de-escalation and disengagement should happen. It should happen expeditiously. The times drawn out by the corps commanders or other military, senior military level commanders should be followed, and they should be followed in letter and spirit. So that's what happens
Right.
at the diplomatic level. So in that sense, they complement each other.
Right, Amrit, also we know India-China share a long border, nearly 3,500 kilometers. Now, the developments that are taking place, de-escalation at eastern Ladakh LAC, if it does work as one would hope it does, would serve as a model for other flashpoints along the LAC in the long border that is shared between the two countries?
First of all, I think right now the focus of the Indian establishment and also the Chinese establishment, both diplomatic, political, and military, would be to see that this disengagement at the friction points, which are more than one, and they are in different sectors, in the depth sector, in Dolak-Beg-Oldi, in the Chushul sector, in the Galwan areas, the Gogra hot springs, the Galwan and the Gogra hot springs. This is what sources are saying, where the disengagement process, they've shown signs of disengaging, and extends right up to Sikkim, where that incident at Nakula on the 9th of May happened. So there are various friction points at various sectors of the border. The idea right now is that this disengagement, this troop build-up, this standoff is resolved at the friction points, and then the status quo ante to the positions where the armies were in April is observed. The second, I think, point of the exercise is to see that repeat of incidents that happened in the recent past, including the one of 15th of June, are not, they do not reoccur, and mechanisms and protocols in place are followed scrupulously. So I think the focus right now would be this, and once this sort of standoff is resolved, yes, of course, it could become a template for both armies to strictly follow, especially for the PLA, because as you know, the troop built up by the Indian side is in response to what the Chinese have done. So that is why it could well become a template for future. But right now, the focus, as I said, is clearly on disengagement and de-escalation.
Right there, Amrit, thanks very much for joining us with those inputs on this big development. Moving on, some weather updates in Bihar due to light and moderate rainfall witnessed during the last 24 hours. The water level of rivers have come down. The situation has also improved due to light rains in Nepal, and the excessive rainwater flowing from there has also decreased. Areas connected to Bagmati, Kosi and Budhi Gandak rivers received rainfall of 10 to 35 mm. Talking about Simanchal in Bihar, the Mahananda River has gone below the danger mark in all 6 places of Katihar. However, the Adwara River in Darbhanga is flowing 1 meter 80 centimeters above the danger mark. The water levels of Parman River in Byasi of Purnia is 50 centimeters above the danger mark, while Gogha River in Kalgaon, Bhagalpur is flowing 89 centimeters above the danger mark. Meanwhile, Met Department has predicted intense lightning and thunderstorm in several parts of the country. And turning from Bihar to Assam, monsoon fury continued to wreak havoc in several states of the country. However, situation in Assam is slowly improving as water levels have receded at many places. 37 persons have died due to the flood situation in the state so far, while over 6,80,000 people across 18 districts are still affected by floods. However, there is no report of any new death being reported in the past 24 hours. According to Assam State's Disaster Management Authority, over 1,000 villages are affected by floods and 39,600 hectares of crop area is underwater. Relief and rescue work is underway. NDRF and SDRF teams have rescued over 1,000 persons from the affected areas. Nearly 5,000 persons are sheltered in 62 relief and rescue centers. And my colleague Duina is joining us from Guwahati with more updates on the flood and rain situation in Assam. Duina, now that the flood situation has receded a little, give us the ground situation of how has the relief work picked up pace.
Right, Subhendu, let me correct one thing that the latest flood bulletin have been released a few minutes back by some state disaster management authority, and 1 death has been reported, and now the death toll has reached 38. And yes, the flood situation in the last 24 hours, in fact in the last 48 hours has further improved. 15 districts have been affected now out of 33. Then population affected is more than 3,86,000, over 42,000 hectares of cropland have been affected. Yes, relief and rescue operations are on. 128 people have been evacuated by NDRF and SDRF personnel in the last 24 hours. And relief camps total 76, 50 relief camps, and 26 are relief distribution centers. So inmates are there, around 4,000 inmates are taking shelter in those relief camps. And yes, I have to mention it here, Shubhendu, that flood is a major problem, right? But after flood, there is another major problem, is that the erosion. There are many reports coming in from various districts. Even today, from Dibrugarh district, then Chirang, Baksa, erosions took place in various places, which is another major problem that has, it's a major problem, and the district administrations are in fact trying to tackle both flood and erosion. And one more thing to be added here, this time there is another problem, that is the pandemic, that COVID-19 pandemic. You see Assam in the last 2-3 days, there is the biggest spike ever with 1,200, more than 1,200 in fact people have been detected with COVID positive. In fact, in Guwahati itself, only more than 700 COVID positive cases detected. So it's a huge challenge for the state government, for various district administrations to tackle flood and erosion as well as COVID-19 pandemic.
Right, little more on that, Doina. We know lakhs of people, over 6 lakh people are affected. Some 5,000 have taken shelter in the relief camps. And given the pandemic situation and provisions like social distancing, which are mandatory, how challenging is the task for the administration this year?
Right, Subhendu, you know, in Guwahati, in the Kamrup Metro District, from the last, since 29th of June, lockdown has been imposed, as you are quite aware of that.
Yes.
So it's been going on until July 12th, it will be there. And there is a notification issued by state government yesterday. Certain relaxations have been given, like some standalone grocery shops and wholesale grocery shops in particular time and on day, like on Sunday and Tuesday. Like there are some certain relaxations been given here in this particular lockdown in the Guwahati city, in the Kamrup Metro District. But yes, there is a great challenge of COVID-19 as well, because in fact the police personnel today in a press conference by Assam DGP, he mentioned that more than 220 police personnel have been detected with COVID positive. So you see, these are the corona warriors. In fact, they are just working in the front lines, and they are also being detected with COVID positive. And yes, the DGP himself said that still, though the people are being affected, but still the police fraternity, they are keeping their moral high. They are working day in and day out to help the people out here in Assam in various districts. So overall, if you say this is a major challenge, both flood, erosion, then COVID-19, and state government is trying to tackle the whole situation in a smooth manner. In fact, the district administrations, they are in fact putting their efforts to deal with those inmates who are there in the relief camps. Then they are also trying to tackle the situation of erosion in different districts.
Right, Doina, it is a challenging time for the locals and the administration.
Yes.
You're right there. And finally, Doina, now that the water levels have receded, which is a positive sign, what is the update from the local Met office? How is the weather likely to be in Assam and the region in the days ahead? Any advisory for the locals from the administration on that?
Yes, the regional Met department has mentioned that there might be rainfall from next 2-3 days, in the next 2-3 days. But till today, in fact, the weather condition was really good. In the last 48 hours, there was no rainfall in most of the parts of Assam. Subhendu.
Okay, there, Doina, thanks very much for joining us with those detailed inputs from Guwahati. Let's now talk about the COVID situation in the country. We take a look at the COVID-19 update from across the country. The collective and the focused efforts for containment and management of COVID-19 by the centre along with the states and union territories. The number of recovered cases rose to over 4,24,000 in the country. As per the latest update, a total of 4,24,433 people have recovered from the disease so far. In the past 24 hours, 15,350 recovered from COVID-19. With this, the recovery rate reached over 60%, 60.85%. The Health and Family Welfare Ministry said a total of 24,248 new cases of COVID-19 were reported in the country in the past 24 hours, taking the total number of cases to 6,97,413. According to Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the total number of active corona cases in the country stands at 2,53,287, and all detected people are under medical supervision. And according to Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, India has conducted over 1 crore tests to diagnose COVID-19 so far. Around 1,80,596 samples were tested on July 5th, yesterday, in the country itself. And talking about responses of different states, in Kerala, triple lockdown has been imposed in Thiruvananthapuram from 6 a.m. This morning on Monday for 7 days. All offices except for essential and critical services will remain shut down, including the Secretariat. People are advised to remain indoors, and movement of persons can only be for medical emergencies and delivering essential services and goods. Public can come to shops for purchase. Police and associated volunteers will deliver essential items at home. No vehicles will be allowed to ply during this period in the city limits. Entry and exit to the city limits will only be through a single point. This extraordinary decision was taken after Trivandrum has been reporting cases whose origin couldn't be traced. Meanwhile, Chennai and its 3 neighboring districts emerged from a 17-day intensive lockdown today. Vegetable and provision shops can now stay open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. As before the lockdown, restaurants in Chennai can only offer takeaway services up to 9 p.m. While in 3 neighboring districts, they can operate with 50% dine-in capacity. Auto rickshaws, cycle rickshaws, taxis and cab aggregators have been permitted to resume operations in the city. Auto rickshaws must carry only 2 passengers, excluding the driver, while cabs can ferry a maximum of 3 people. 50% staff strength is allowed in IT companies, private offices, industrial establishments and export-oriented units in Chennai, with a maximum of 80 employees in offices, while 100% staff is allowed in neighboring districts. Religious places in these districts have also been allowed to reopen for public worship. Those who need to travel between districts require an e-pass. Chennai seeing a decline in cases in the last couple of days. Authorities say the lockdown has served its key purpose. And as part of the government's Unlock 2, all historical monuments protected by Archaeological Survey of India have reopened for the public from today. The monuments opened after more than 3 months of a lockdown with still security and precaution. The Union Ministry of Culture had last week announced reopening of ASI protected properties from July 6th, that is today, with SOPs and safeguards in place. Archaeological Survey of India has, however, made all arrangements to follow social distancing norms by making circles outside of monuments in Agra. Also, it was clarified by the ministry that only those monuments or museums which are in non-containment zone will be open for visitors. Therefore, Taj Mahal and other monuments in Agra will remain closed till further orders, as they fall under the buffer zone area outside of the containment zone. And my colleague Taposh Bhattacharya is joining us with more updates on the COVID situation in the country. Now, Taposh, if you talk about the rising cases in the country, India now has the 3rd highest number of cases in the world, surpassed Russia. But what is the correlation between the rising number of cases and the greater rate and pace of testing that is taking place in India? And also the recovery rate, which is above 60% now, remains an optimistic development.
Absolutely, that's an optimistic development, and that's one of the reasons why the last few days the union government has started the 3 T's: the testing, tracing, and the treatment of the patient. So the 3 T's are actually bearing fruit as of now. Just now that we got the information that it has the ICMR testing has crossed the 1 crore mark. Now that's a huge development for a country which were earlier was struggling. So the testing that has crossed the 1 crore mark, and in fact in the last 24 hours more than 3,46,000 testing happened, sample tested came. So in keeping those things in mind, you will definitely feel that the number of cases has definitely gone up, but it has also shown that you can trace those cases and you can treat them, and that's one of the reasons why the recovery rate has gone past the 60%, in fact 60.81% to be precise. But it is even more substantial for a state like even the national capital, Delhi, for that matter, because remember, Delhi on June 23rd reported the single highest spike of almost 3,900 cases, and it continued over 3,000 cases till almost 26th of June. But since the union government came into the picture and the Union Home Minister took stock of the situation, from June 27th till July 4th, the average cases per day stands at approximately 2,495 to almost that way, that range. So you can see that the reasoning is pretty simple, that the more cases, that the more testing that you do, the more tracing that can be done and more treatment can be done. So this is a amazing way of going ahead with the whole concept of this. So we cannot just say that yes, India has gone and gone past the 4th position, is right now in the 3rd position in the overall world COVID chart, but one has to also see it in comparison to the number of testing that has increased manifold, and also the kind of treatment that is going on, because it has actually made sure that the recovery rate has increased big time. Subhendu.
Right, Tapush, thanks very much for joining us with those inputs on the COVID situation. And with those updates and inputs by reporters, we conclude this special presentation. News and updates continue after a short break. Namaskar.